How you doing today, Aditi?
I am awesome. Thanks, guys.
What's up?
Aditi, yeah, there was
It's always like
something
a
in the
little
way
bit
you
of a
said that makes
delay.
me think you're not as awesome as you say you are.
No, I am. Well, because I just wanted to say that it was so good to see Baker, and Baker's doing so well. And then I was sort of mentally wrestling with whether Adam really wants to hear that or not. And so, do I bring it up? Do I not? And that's kind of what was happening.
I
If there
listen.
was a thought bubble, you would have seen a thought bubble saying, "Do I say I'm awesome because it was so good to see Baker, or do I
Yeah,
not?"
listen.
That's what happened.
I have credited Baker throughout the year. He has done a nice job. He is playing well. I continue to maintain he would have never played this well in Cleveland because he needed the humbling and to hit the low. He hit the bottom of the barrel, and I mean I don't know him personally. Obviously, I can't say it for sure. This is just my opinion. I don't. He never played this well in Cleveland. People try and revisionist history to say he played this well in Cleveland, but I will say that as well as he's playing, he still turns the ball over too much, which is will continue to be a problem and will haunt him when they actually play good teams, which they don't in their division when they get to the playoffs. I
You
think.
know, but this is a team that PS beat the Eagles earlier in the year, beat the Lions, and
Yeah.
even without two of their best players, and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, took the Chiefs to overtime. So, I mean, they're decimated by injury here. You are completely correct, and Baker will tell you it himself, as he said to me
Yeah.
on Friday, that he doesn't grow the same way if he doesn't go through what he went through. Being in limbo in Cleveland, then being traded to an organization that was in the middle of the most dysfunction that there was, losing his starting spot, being sent to LA in the being waived, then getting those 5 weeks, those 5 games in LA, then having to prove himself last year and win a job. All of that he openly admits had an enormous impact on helping him grow up. I mean, he used the phrase. He said it's
Yeah.
part of growing up. But I'll tell you this: he is absolutely loved. He is absolutely wanted. Todd Bowles, the general
Sure.
manager, the entire front office, his teammates, everybody makes a point of saying that. You can tell that he feels it. And he said, look, he's always going to be himself. I actually said this on Instagram this morning when I made a little like couple paragraphs about this. He's always going to have a chip on his shoulder. He's always going to love to prove the doubters wrong. He's always going to be insanely intense and passionate. He's always going to take every slight personally. But he's not feeling that he has to prove himself as much as he has the last few years. He knows that he's loved. He knows that he's wanted. And he's also doing much better at not trying to do too much. And that was his quote. He says, I'm not trying to do too much. We know that that's what sunk him his last year in Cleveland, where he had the torn labrum and he just felt like he had to do everything by himself. And, that's not a way to operate. So I just think we'll continue to see growth. And look, part of the game for guys like him, guys like a Ben Roethlisberger, you think you're always in the game. You're always going to try something. There is a magic in throwing the ball away to live to see another down, but there's also an aggressiveness that I want to make a play and help my team. And I think that as you get older, you learn how to channel that better, and he will. He will. But it was really good to see him. And you know what? It was just on a personal level. It's always nice to see somebody who was kicked to the curb find a home where people love him and appreciate him and let him be him. Because look, like he certainly is an acquired taste, right? Like,
Yep.
but the truth is that people who love him really, really, really love him. And it's nice to
True.
see him in a place where he is really, really loved.
You know, Aditi, that's how I feel about the UCSS. Kick to the curb, found a place that I was oh yeah, by the way, when you got some money, it's something about signing an over $100 million contract that you feel a sense of comfort. But we're not gonna.
I
Make
mean,
this
I wouldn't know about that. I don't know, Tyvis. You'll have to
Yeah.
speak from your personal
I wouldn't know
experience
either.
there. I know nothing.
I wouldn't know.
Jay would know.
I
Jay
was
would probably
trying.
know.
I was trying to steal money from the NFL for 4 years. They wouldn't give it to me. But anyways, about the Kansas City Chiefs, we got the Kansas City Chiefs coming up. The last time the Browns played them, it actually was closer than a lot of people anticipated, to the point where the Browns actually were winning the game. When you see this matchup, I know that Kansas City has been escaping some of these games, and I know the Browns are coming off of this loss, but have had moments where they've looked really good. What are you expecting to see out of this? And is there a way that you see the Browns actually pulling the upset?
Okay, so anything is in the realm of possibility. And when I say in the realm of possibility, that means it is not impossible. But let's go backwards for a minute. When you look at the Chiefs, do you sit here and say, this is a really great team, and great teams expect to win. Great teams expect the ball to bounce that way. Great teams don't get tight late in games. Great teams find any way to win, even if it's their third kicker of the year having to hit a game winner that doinks off of an upright. Do you say that? Or do you sit here and say, my goodness, the Chiefs are really skating and it's going to catch up with them?
They living right.
I mean, how are you looking at
I
it?
say that they living
the first
right.
one. I mean, there's always some level of luck when you win as much as they do.
They living
but
right.
I think it's more the first than the second for me.
They living right.
They get lucky.
Luck.
And it's
also the blocked field goal against Chicago was
crazy.
That's ridiculous. Like, come on now.
Which one do you think it is?
When
ridiculous.
you have amazing player, like you just sort of expect, when you've done it as much as they have over the last few years, you expect somebody is going to make a play. And I'll tell you the thing that I like the most, and it's sort of like that intangible woo-woo stuff. But I remember a few years ago, the Ravens were 14-2, and I don't think they were challenged all year. Maybe they played one close game in those 14 wins.
Yeah.
You come to the playoffs, the Titans come to Baltimore, and the Ravens lost. They hadn't been tested. They hadn't had their backs against the wall and had to gut out a win in some sort of crazy way where some sort of unexpected person had to come up with the big play. The Chiefs have done that all year. They're never going to be in a moment where they're going to look around and say, crap, what do we do now? So I'm kind of with you on that one, Adam, and I almost feel like that's harder. It takes me back to, so for Westwood One last year, I was on the sideline for the Chiefs-Bills game, and the Bills were up. But then in the fourth quarter, it was a close game. The Bills were up. But in the fourth quarter, it was a marked difference on the two sidelines. The Chiefs, you felt like just went, we have them right where we want them. The Bills, meanwhile, you could see everyone just looked a little tenser on the bench. The coaches, when they're talking on the headsets, were suddenly talking a lot more fast. And there was a lot more freneticness to what was happening there. That was getting tight. That was getting nervous. So now you sit here and you're like, okay, the Chiefs haven't really run all over anybody. And yeah, the Browns have had these moments. So can the Browns possibly put something together? Not if they're throwing the ball 58 times a game. Okay. You talk about turnovers. Not if Jameis is keeping both teams in the game. And not if things are, again, like super duper close at the end of the game, because that's when the Chiefs are magical. And what experience do these Browns have in playing right in the last 5 minutes?
By the way, real quick before you go, the way you described the Bills.
Oh, that was
Chiefs,
it? Wow.
What?
Yeah.
No, he said before.
No, you're like, before you go.
Before you
G
speak.
asks you a
Before
question.
he speaks.
Yeah.
Before G asks you a question.
I was like, you're kicking me out?
That's just started, dog.
The way you described the Chiefs Bills reminds me of exactly what's going on with Ohio State, Michigan the last 4 years, right?
Yeah.
Ryan Day gets tight as a drum at the end of the games because he's softer than Sharman, where Michigan's playing loose and free.
Poor Tyvis.
Those are facts.
Hey, Tyvis, do you feel bad about Kirk Herbstreit's kid going to Michigan? Like, is that one? Like, would you ever let one of your kids go to Michigan?
First of all, no, I wouldn't, but I understand why that's happening because, I mean, they just got a 5-star kid, Tavian St. Clair from Bell Fountain, that's coming in 2025. Why would you take another 3-star in the same class? Actually, in 2011, Cardale Jones and Braxton Miller were both in the same class coming in at Ohio State together. Cardale had to go to a military school just so they can offset him because you don't never really want two quarterbacks in the same class. So with this situation, you've already got a 5-star coming in. I don't even think they even offered another kid. So he did the right thing by going to the Wolverines.
Well, Michigan has a 5-star too.
Yeah, but it's different though. Like, why would he?
Yeah, but you shouldn't be afraid. You shouldn't be afraid of competing. You know, like that's my feeling on it. At some point, you're going to have to beat out somebody for a job. And so you've got to at least try.
We can't even get Kirk to give an opinion anymore. He's scared to give an opinion because he's afraid he's going to get criticized. So
Didn't he get criticized? He did something.
Everybody gets criticized. You're in the media, you get criticized. It's part of the job.
Well,
anyway, sorry, G. I stole your thought.
I don't toe the line. Go ahead, G.
Well, you know, I didn't. We was doing Kirk. Kirk, you're doing fine.
Joe, you been stealing at the grocery store?
Huh?
Eating grapes before you check out? Have you been eating ham before you check out? Grapes
No,
before you check out?
I
was
was
me.
funny.
I did
That
the
was
ham.
it.
The ham was me.
So I used to go with my grandma. Speaking of my grandmother, she loved the color green. You should wear green more often.
Ooh, thanks. Okay.
Yeah, green
right.
is the color of
Good to know.
royalty. And listen, the lighting looks good and everything. I was like, okay, Aditi.
You know, I was going to say, I feel like you can't. We got to be. You know, you're not sure what you could say these days because I was going to say that Aditi looks particularly nice today, but I'm afraid to say it.
Yeah,
I don't want.
that's funny because I was
Why
going to
are
say
we
the same
afraid to say
thing.
that?
I was
Make
actually
your
going to say
friend
the
feel
same
good.
thing, but I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to go there.
I know it.
I'm not even gonna go there.
I went there. I'm not
I was actually, I was going to start off my comment and say she's glowing today.
She is glowing.
but I was like, you know what? I don't even want to go there.
Hey,
I know.
but
Well, you
You
went
know
there
what?
now, so.
Guys, I think I got sun for the first time in like 4 weeks. I was in Tampa. It was sunny.
Oh,
you know,
that's right.
I had a
Lucky
little
you.
color to the skin. I think that's what happened.
See,
right?
man, y'all just gotta learn not to do it in a creepy way.
That's
you just
true.
gotta come out and just,
Yeah.
hey, you're just, hey, man, I like the color green. But I will say this: we all like the color
You
green.
made the smooth transition for
Smooth
us.
transition.
Yeah.
You talked about Baker a little bit in throwing the football and learning when to say when, but there's a little excitement level to it. I mean, we got a guy, Jameis Winston, that throws for like 500 yards, and the interception against the Steelers broke me. The defensive line, the defensive tackle interception broke me because it was like, I was like, yeah, sometimes as a quarterback, you just have to know what the game is looking like. And at that point, before that, prior to that, Russell Wilson was struggling a little bit. The Boo Birds even came out a little bit.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, the Browns are in a position where they can, if they don't give the ball to the Steelers, you may find a way to stay in this football game. The interception happens, they come down to score. I asked Mary Kay this question. Do you think that is able to be coached out of a player? Like that thing with interceptions, or is it just part of what that player is and you got to accept it?
Well, you already asked Mary Kay. What do you like, pitting us against each other?
No.
You want to compare Mary Kay's answer to mine?
I like to get.
I mean, I don't roll that way. I like Mary Kay.
I like to get a consensus. I like to get a. Now I can tell
I
you
think
what
she
Mary
knows
Kay
that
said.
team better than anyone.
Like I want to get a consensus. I like to crowdsource my answers so I can come up with a formulated
You
opinion.
sure? You sure you're not trying to start a cat fight?
Let's try to set it up. He was like, he was buttering me up with that compliment earlier. I know what G is doing. He ain't slick. He gonna
And
run
now
this
he's
back.
getting me in trouble. This is almost as bad as when Mikey asked me about the mustache. My
Right.
goodness, I need
Oh, yeah.
preparation to come
Thank
on
God
the
that
show.
thing's gone.
Okay. You know who else who needs to lose a mustache? Aiden O'Connell,
Oh,
the
that's
Raiders
horrible.
quarterback. Have you seen that?
I think
know.
that's why he got hurt.
I mean,
Just because of that stupid
That's
mustache.
messed up.
I told Antonio Pierce. I said you got to tell him to get rid of that thing. My goodness. But anyway, all right, moving right along. I would like to think that anybody can be coached. You mentioned Russell Wilson. Look at how well Russell Wilson is playing within Arthur Smith's system. And that's the key, within Arthur Smith's system, and not freelancing and doing his own thing and running around and trying to throw downfield to perhaps not the best effect. So you would like to think that. But I told you guys last week, this is Jameis's game. You know, Jameis keeps both teams in a game. That's sort of who he is. And I don't think that you are doing him any favors when you are throwing the ball as much as you are throwing the ball, and you are not getting your run game to do anything. I mean, that is not a pretty pass completion percentage. But again, there is a sweet spot, and throwing the ball 58 times, throwing the ball 50 times, that's not the sweet spot. Where's the run game? Where's the play action pass game?
Yeah, that's another thing where that
Well,
feature,
they haven't been able to run.
that feature, the Kevin Stefanski playbook of the play action pass, which eliminates some of these pass rushes, it just seems to not be there anymore. Obviously,
They don't. They're not running any play
They're
action.
You need to run. Like, well, I'll come back to the Bucks since I just had them and talking to Baker Mayfield. The Bucks haven't been able to run the ball in like 10 years. Now, this year, finally, behind Rashad White and the rookie Bucky Irving, who's a tremendous kid.
That's
he got
a
hurt.
big
I hope
loss
he's
for them.
okay.
Is he going to miss the next
Yeah.
game?
I mean, he's been monstrous for them. But in any case, they finally have a run game, a great run game. And as Baker was saying, the run game is what opens up everything. It changes the way the teams can play defense. Now, they're still going to cloud Mike Evans. They're still going to try to double him. But the looks that you get are completely different when you need to respect a run game. If the Browns can't run the ball, then obviously Jameis is being put in a much worse position because teams don't have to respect the run.
Yeah.
I mean, it all goes hand in hand. And
they're gonna have to
I think
address it this
Jameis would be
offseason.
better on the interception front if the Browns were actually running the ball.
Do you think that it's the Browns don't have the running backs? Do you think it's the scheme? What do you think is the reason why the Browns have not been able to run the ball effectively this year?
I think some of it has to do with run design, right? With run play design. I think some of it is the line isn't quite as disciplined and on its P's and Q's as it was with Bill Callahan. And you have to call the run to run. You know, like you have to be more committed and more consciously trying to run the ball if you want to succeed at running the ball. How many times do we say this? Like a run in the first quarter might go for 3 yards, and that same run in the third quarter you hope goes for 8 or maybe goes for 12. Part of why Ken Dorsey was replaced by Joe Brady in Buffalo is because Buffalo wanted to be more committed to running the ball, which they were. And that was what they did much better when they made that change. So you would think, or you would expect, that Ken Dorsey has learned from that that's a big piece of what offenses need to do to be successful, and especially an offense that is the Cleveland Browns that plays in the AFC North.
Now, they were, until those last 2 drives for the Browns, they were down by 20 points going into those last 2 drives. And until that point, they were pretty balanced this past week. I think it was like 22 passes, 18 runs, something like that. And then those last 2 drives, it was 13-3 pass because they're down big, I understand. But
right.
in general, they haven't, outside of the 2 Steeler games.
In general, I'm saying
balanced,
just
yes.
specifically in general, this is not a team that has shown a great commitment to running the ball.
No.
And again, when you haven't run the ball so well, you can't just expect to turn it on one week. You know, running the ball requires commitment.
Aditi, did you hear the comments Joe Burrow made after the game yesterday about T. Higgins?
That he hopes that he's back and they want to run it back together?
He didn't say he hopes that he's back. He said, I can't remember the exact words, but he basically said he's going to be back. Insinuated that he's going to be involved in the negotiation in some way. Like he was putting it out there that the Bengals better bring him back. Is that meaningful to you in any way, or is it just nonsense?
He said,
I don't. Oh, sorry, Tyvis. Go ahead.
What did he say?
He said, I'm confident we're going to be able to do what it takes to get T. Higgins back. I know that I'm going to do what it takes to get him back.
I mean, players don't say things like that very often.
So Joe might be willing to sort of restructure his contract, create more cap room, move some things into a bonus, things like that. So that's what I'll do what I can do. He's obviously going to lobby for him. He obviously wants him back. I think that a player who speaks up so forcefully for his teammates is always a really good thing. But at the end of the day, is Mike Brown going to be able to and willing to pay T. Higgins and Jamar Chase when he's already paid Joe Burrow?
Well,
and
willing
clearly
to
his
is the only
defense
question.
Needs some help.
He is able to. The question is, will he be willing to? That's as you said.
Well, able to, because you have to think about the rest of the team too, right? I mean, there's a reason that Tom Brady was. Well, and that's my point. Like, you need to bring in some reinforcements. You need to improve your defense. You need to improve your run game. There are things that have to happen.
Yeah.
And look, we've seen it this year. Joe Burrow is lighting it up week after week after week. He may have never played better in his life, and yet what is their record?
Yeah, it's the defense.
They can't win on Joe Burrow's arm alone. They can't win on that pass game alone. They need to improve the rest of the team.
I hear you.
Aditi, do you think the Cleveland Browns need, either through the draft or free agency, do you think that they need an additional quarterback that is not on the roster right now?
I'm not, we keep kind of talking about this, and I guess last week, the way that I left it, so a few weeks ago, I said, no, I want to see DTR. Then last week, I said, sure, like, let Jameis finish it out and see what you have in him, and maybe he's your guy. But I tend to think the way that the rest of this roster is built, and if you want to ensure that you're bringing back guys like Joel Bitonio, you may need to upgrade at the quarterback position.
There it is.
And I don't know what that is. I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. I don't. Is Sam Darnold an upgrade? Because the Vikings have JJ, and so I don't think that, Sam Darnold is the guy that they should be locking up long term.
Dustin said that he would think about franchise tagging him because he plays so well, and JJ
Sam Darnold would be an upgrade, but I don't think the Browns can afford him. They have the second most over the cap for next year, but only 6. Well, it's going to be tricky.
Oh, so you're saying franchise tag Sam Darnold and make JJ McCarthy learn for another year?
Right. Yeah, since he was hurt the whole
I mean,
year.
I don't think that that's a bad idea either, because look, he has to get healthy too.
Yep.
And it takes a while off of that. So, and but I've never really understood this rush in playing quarterbacks right away.
No.
I like the Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre model. Yeah. I like the Patrick Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith model.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to learn.
Alex Smith becoming pretty good on TV and radio. He does a radio show on NFL radio, and I think NFL radio for the most part is trash, but he's really good on there. So anyway, thanks, Aditi. Great stuff.
He's a really smart guy too.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for the compliments, guys. I appreciate it.